Welcome. My name is Colleen Tauke and I'm the sewing specialist at Fons & Porter. In this Quilting Quickly tutorial, I'm going to show you how to put together the blocks needed in around the fence. Now you'll see that here on the Sewing Center we have 2.5 inch pre-cut strips, and then we're going to add a solid white. You could add any color that accents your pack of 2.5 inch strips. So if you would like to purchase this pattern or the magazine that it is found in, you can visit our website for all the details there on how to purchase it. Okay, the blocks that we're going to be making are, I have one laying here on the Sewing Center. It's just made from 3 pre-cut 2.5 inch strips. So what you're going to want to do to begin with, I am not really good at doing scrappy. I always call it planned scrappy because what I would do is I'd take the set of strips, break it open, and I would group them into groups of 3 strips that will go into a strip set. I hate to have at the very end up having 3 blue strips that go together. For some reason I just need to have a little more control over the strips that go into my strip sets. So the first thing I would have you do is then break up your pre-cuts into groups of 3, and then you're going to be constructing strip sets. And I have half lengths here just so it's easier to manage in the on the work surface here. And what you're going to be doing is joining those into a strip set. Now if you're a beginner, this is a great place to practice your 1/4 inch seaming. If you are a well-seasoned quilter, again, a good place to practice your 1/4 inch seaming and to look at the actual construction. Most of us would take the strips and just sew from one end and add 2 strips together, then the third, sewing from the same direction. But when you do this over time, it tends to be that your strip set gets skewed. The presser foot on your sewing machine pushes fabric a little bit, and you'll get kind of a distortion and a twist to your strip set. So as you, the thing that we try to stress is that as you're joining your strip sets, sew in one direction when you join the first 2 strips, and then in the opposite direction when you join the 3rd strips to the set, so that you are sewing in opposite directions. It tends to keep your strip set a little bit nicer and neat and a little more square. So as you join those together, you would create your strip set. Then you want to make sure you take them to your ironing board and press seam allowances, setting the seam, which means to, I'll take one out here. And if you're a beginner, this might be a term that you aren't familiar with yet. Once you've sewn your seam, you take it and you set the seam, means to warm up the fabrics with the iron, and then come in and press your seam allowances in one direction. And you can see here the seam allowances are pressed, both going in the same direction. Now you have all these great strip sets because you can do all kinds of sewing really quickly when you're making strip sets. So you would join together all your strip sets, and you need to cut them into 6.5 inch segments like this. Now if you're just a beginner, you're going to want to just probably cut one unit at a time until you get a little confidence, and then I'll show you a trick on how I cut multiple units at once off a strip set. Now one thing you might also consider is that there are lines on my mat, but I disregard those, pretend they're not there. I use just my ruler to make sure that my strips, our units are precise. So we're going to come in here. This one has already had a piece cut off it, so I know this is a right angle and it's nice and clean. So I will bring my ruler in, lay it on, find the 6.5 inch mark, line it up along that cut edge, and then I'm also looking to put one of my horizontal lines on my ruler, matching it up with a seam line across. This way I know that I have a nice precise 6.5 inch unit. Then we're going to come in, and if you're just cutting one, you're cutting simply like this. Now it takes a while to go down the strip set and cut all those pieces, and this is the way that when I'm in my own sewing center or in the workroom at Fons & Porter, I will take multiple strip sets and line them up, one on top of the other, and I'm looking at this about 3/8 of an inch or so, 1/4 inch, keeping those edges parallel there, and I will stack multiple strip sets. I'm always impatient to get to the next project, so this is the one trick that I picked up that's Wonderful. And as I'm offsetting those, that means also that the seam allowances underneath there are offset. So you won't get that large rocking motion if you were to sit them right on top of each other, because then all the seam allowances would be stacked as kind of a mountain there, and your ruler wouldn't want to lay flat. Now, you might have uneven edges here, so you're going to want to overcut that first piece. Or if your cutting gets a little skewed, sometimes we even go back and clean up that edge as we progress across the strip set. Again, matching up seam line with a piece there, and I'm also looking up here to see that I've got these all nice and parallel. Then I can cut through a whole stack of pieces at once, making sure you have a nice sharp rotary blade in your cutter. Keep them all together, and then cut the 6 1/2, cleaning up the side so I know that all of them are going to be very precise. And then I've cut 5 at once, so I've got a whole bunch of pieces ready to go. Now, for the very center of this quilt, you will see there are 6 blocks arranged, and we call this a rail fence block as we put them together this way. And so therefore that's where the name around the fence kind of comes from. So we've got them arranged, alternating directions. And here's where you get to come into play. Maybe you wouldn't want to use 2 of the same blocks in that very center, but that's up to you. It's your design, so you can play with it any way you like. And you'll see that these then kind of do a weave to create that very center of the block, or the quilt. You're working from the center on this out instead of in rows. So you would join together 2, 2, and 2, and then join those short rows together to make the very center of this quilt. Then you're just adding white spacer bars, borders, inner borders, to kind of give your eye a place to kind of rest between all the rail fence type blocks. So we've got a narrow inner border of white. Then we're coming back to using our pieces, our 6 1/2 inch units, to create the next round on our quilt. Then we're using a large white, and then out to another round of 6 1/2 inch units, and finishing with a narrow white border. You can use any set of 2 1/2 inch pre-cut strips for this. Add your favorite accent color, black, a gray, and have fun with it. If you'd like to see more of our videos, tutorials, visit our website. Thanks for joining me today.